The Rambam begins his description of Hilchot Ishut, the laws concerning marriage, by saying, Korem Matan Torah Adam Pogea Isha Bashuk. Before the giving of the Torah, a person would meet a woman somehow or other on the street. If he and she both attracted to one another, and he takes her to his home and has marital relations with her, that's called getting married. This is the law concerning Bnei Noach. They're considered husband and wife once they take a home together. So, Kiddushin Torah, when the Torah was given, Nitzavu Yisrael, the people of Israel, were commanded that if a man and a woman want to marry, Yikneh ota tochila b'fnei Edom. First, there's got to be a symbolic act of form of mutual acquisition in front of witnesses. V'yavakarti lo leisha shenema ki yikach ish isha uvay leo. But it says in the Chumash, a man has to take a wife in symbolical manner. And then the Rambam says, mitzvot aseh shel Torah. This act of Kiddushin, which goes through the Chatan giving something to the Kala in front of two witnesses with declaration, Hariat Mekudeshet Li, is a mitzvah of the Torah. And there are three ways in which this can be done, as it's described at the beginning of the tractate Kiddushin. Kesef, Bishtar, or Babiyah. Either by giving something of value, today the custom is with a ring, or with a document, or also through in the act of intercourse, preceded by declaration to be the purpose of marriage. And then he says in Halakha Daled, Korem Matan Torah Adam Pogea Isha Bashuk. Also before the giving of the Torah, then it was considered, and still it's considered amongst many of the nations of the world, also called the Torah, Bnei Noach, if he and she want to have intercourse, they can do it. But if they do it without marriage, it's called a Kadesha. The laws of the Torah, she's called not a Kadosha, but a Kadesha. It's all an aspect of lewdness. It's called in the Torah lewdness, that means for Am Yisrael it's called lewdness. Because when Mishinitna Torah Nesra Kadesha, before the giving of the Torah there was no real prohibition. It was customary, as it is still amongst the nations of the world today as well. But for the people of Israel, it said, Lord Shir Kadesham is not Israel. Lefichach kol ha'poel ish l'shem znut v'lo Kiddushin lokem min ha'Torah v'dei shebal Kadesha. Rambam's view is that anyone who has intercourse with a woman for the purpose of just enjoying the act of Torah, then it's prohibited, even with Malchut when it's better. So anyway, we see from here from the Rambam that Kiddushin is considered a mitzvah. It's not just an act of kinyan, it's an actual mitzvah. And this is also the view of many of the Rishonim. Like the Chinuch and Tosfot also in Pesachim, it appears that he regards Kiddushin as a mitzvah, and which is one of the major sources for this opinion of the Rambam, not shared by everyone, as we will see, but the Rambam's opinion. What do you think is one of the sources for it? Can anybody tell me?
The source for Kiddushin, to be fruitful and multiply.
One?
The plurivia, no?
All right, let us clarify this question. Good point you've mentioned. Everyone agrees that the mitzvah of Pru'orvu, which is mentioned in the Chumash for Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava, and afterwards again to the Bnei Noach, this is an obligation upon all Jews to fulfill the mitzvah Pru'orvu. The Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvot, he says, there's a mitzvah in mitzvah number 212, it says that there's a mitzvah lifrot v'lirbot l'chavei l'kaim hamin. There's a commandment given in the Chumash explicitly, be fruitful and multiply in order to preserve the human species. V'zoti mitzvah pri'orvio. This is the mitzvah which applies to the people of Israel. Because we say some of the expressions of commandments given to Adam and Chava and afterwards also Bnei Noach, as an obligation, they fall upon the people of Israel.
Wow.
Because in a certain way, the people of Israel are the continuation of Adam HaRishon and Chava. We've got to try and preserve a lifestyle which could lead to Gan Eden, even when the other nations no longer apply. So Pru'orvu is one mitzvah. Then the Rambam adds another mitzvah, 213, the mitzvah of Kiddushin, as he describes here. Kiddushin is not Pru'orvu. Pru'orvu, how can you fulfill Pru'orvu? The fruitful multiply. How do you fulfill it? Through intercourse. Kiddushin is a symbolic act. Let's speak about Kiddushin, how it's done today. Kiddushin with a ring, with הכשר, or Kiddushin with a document, is without biyah. Without doing anything that will bring to fertility. Well, that's a mitzvah, maybe it's just a procedure. Who says there's a mitzvah attached? So the Rambam, in contrast to others say there's just a mitzvah Pru'orvu. How do you fulfill it? We're not, human beings by themselves can't be sure they're going to have children. The din is, what's the din? What's the minimum of Pru'orvu according to Beit Hillel?
A girl and a boy?
You have to have a boy and a girl. Yeah.
Boy and a girl.
Yeah. That's how we paskin, the halacha. If you have a boy and a girl, you fulfill the minimum of Pru'orvu. If you have more children, so you have a higher level of fulfilling Pru'orvu. Be fruitful and multiply. But still, the minimum mitzvah is a boy and a girl. How do you do it? Through marital intercourse. So, even without Kiddushin, Kiddushin is something extra. There was a time when between setting up a home and doing Kiddushin was done a year beforehand. Today we have Bichat Erusin V'Lisun, we have the chuppah, and after the chuppah we have also Yichud, and Yichud where the chos and kala are by themselves together. They've got to be by themselves together, so it would be a possibility for them to, but they don't generally. And the real Yichud, full Yichud, let's say Mam's father, they don't have a Cheder Yichud, many of them, but they take it to their home, or wherever they're going to stay overnight. And then when they consummate the marriage, then they're doing their part in plurvu, in attempting to have children. So that's plurvu, is when you attempt to have children through activating the sexual powers. So that's plurvu. But there's a second mitzvah, the Rambam says. The Sefer Mitzvah is the second separate mitzvah of Kiddushin. So I want to ask you now, then now let me ask the question. We started the second parak. Can you deduce from what it says in the beginning, Mishnah? Do we say that it's a mitzvah of Kiddushin, or is there no mitzvah of Kiddushin? Is it just a procedure? Well, you've learned the Mishnah. Come on.
Ki yikach ish isha is the word which
I'm telling you, there are others. We will go to this later. The Rosh, for example, said there's no mitzvah of Kiddushin. There's mitzvah plurvu. Kiddushin, which we do, is just to prepare for it. Yeah, but it's not a mitzvah in itself.
It says Harish Mekadesh boy, and if we say that he's Mekadesh himself by marrying, then there has to be a mitzvah attached to it. I mean, he can't be Mekadesh himself just through something.
That's not enough proof.
That sounds good. Okay.
It's a procedure. The others say it's just a procedure. But from our Mishnah, what do we see? Simple interpretation of the Mishnah.
It's a mitzvah. Simple.
So let's start, then we'll learn the Mishnah inside. We can't, and you've been spending time on that first Mishnah, and I would have thought that you would straight away jump at it. What does it say? It's quite true. If you just look at the Mishnah superficially, you don't get it. But if you look at the Mishnah itself, it says, the Ish Mekadesh Bo Mishlucho. From that you can't prove it by itself. A man is Mekadesh a woman, that means she becomes acquired to him, is considered his wife, which means that if she goes and has intercourse with another man, there'll be called adultery. And that takes place if he does the Kiddushin by himself, and also if he does it through a messenger. We know all the mitzvot you can, all the procedures as well, acquisition you can do through a messenger. From here there's not enough proof. But what does the Gemara say? What do you mean? What's the Mishnah say? Why does the Mishnah have to tell us that a person can do Kiddushin directly? It's obvious. The Mishnah should be so precise not to tell us things that we know of ourselves. That's the הכשר of the Gemara. So what the Gemara answers? Omar Rav Yosef, mitzvah bo yotem b'shlucho. There's a bigger mitzvah on the person to do it himself than to do it through a messenger. Now, if a person, for example, he wants to buy a piece of land, is there to buy something, buy a piece of furniture? Does he have to do it himself, or can he appoint a messenger?
If a day can appoint a messenger.
He can appoint a messenger. Shlichut, I'm not going to know that question. Shlichut is assumed to be an acceptable practice. You can cause changes of status in all areas of life by doing it yourself or by appointing an agent. I mean, also in general law, we know this agency. We say shlucho shel adam ke moto. The messenger of a person is like himself. A person's got the power to appoint someone to be his messenger, to be his agent, to fulfill an act of acquisition of any sort. So it also applies to marriage. It's obvious. But what does our missions teach us? When it comes to getting married, it's not the same. Why not the same? It's not, the shliach is not just like the person who's sending him. Why not?
It's a personal mitzvah, and it's better for the man to not to send an agent if he hasn't seen the woman before. If he's seen the woman before, he's been around her, then it's not what they call them. It would be improper for him to do so, because if the agent he doesn't know who she is, he hasn't seen her, he may be repulsed by her when she comes into his household, and will give her a divorce.
So what does Rashi say? Rashi says, "Mitzvah bo yote b'shlicho v'chi asik gufa b'mitzvot mekabel tzchar tefei." He, his own body, is active in the mitzvah, gets more reward. So first let me ask you a question. So we see here it's a question of a mitzvah. For a mitzvah of Hashem, when you give a mitzvah of Hashem, can you make a shliach?
Sorry?
Can you make a shliach? Let's speak on other mitzvot. Let's say there's a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to put on tefillin.
You cannot.
Can you make a shliach?
No.
You know, there are some people in some communities, they think, I know I should be putting on tefillin, but I'm too busy with other things. So I'll give some money to the shul and have the minyan men there, they'll put on tefillin for me. Do they fulfill the mitzvah?
No.
It's a very clever
Do they
idea,
fulfill it?
but it's not fulfilling the mitzvah of tefillin. You cannot get yotze, but it's true that for sure they have a merit on somehow on what's happening.
A person wants the mitzvah, he's got the mitzvah to say Kaddish. Yeah? Say Kaddish for someone who's died. Yeah? Let's say he finds it difficult. No, I can't go, I don't have time to go to shul. So he pays a minyan man, or he pays the Rav or something, and says, you say Kaddish for me. Can you make a shliach?
Yes.
Yeah, why? What's the difference? For tefillin you say you can't do it. If you're saying Kaddish you can.
The one is words and the other one is more concrete.
Is what?
The Kaddish is words
Yes.
and the tefillin is
It's tangible.
something out of your body.
It's tangible.
Very good. Otherwise it depends. Is it a mitzvah shebegufo, or is it passing on a message to Hashem? Kaddish or tefillah is passing on a message to Hashem. So therefore you can appoint a shliach to pass on your message to Hashem. It's better you do it yourself. But if you can't do it for certain reasons, you can appoint a shliach to say the tefillah for you. Let's say many people from abroad, they say it's such a big mitzvah to say tefillah at the kotel, we can't get there, so we'll pay someone to say tefillah for us. Is that valid?
Yeah.
Yes. If you could do it himself, what should he do?
You should yourself.
It's better himself, but you can also pass it on to someone else.
Yeah.
So, it like Kaddish, Simon, tefillah, like Doron said before. Tefillin, however, the Torah is, I want your body to have tefillin. I want you to have tefillin on your arm, on your head. It's got to be your arm and your head, not somebody else's. So that's mitzvah shebegufo. So the question is, what is Kiddushin? What type is it? So what are we told here? Can a person make Kiddushin through a shliach?
Yes.
He can. So therefore, the mitzvah of Kiddushin is like a Kaddish. It also goes through words. Yep. So therefore you can appoint a proxy or an agent to make Kiddushin for you as a kinyan. And it's also a mitzvah. That's what the Gemara says. It's a mitzvah. And when it's a mitzvah, it's a bigger mitzvah you do it yourself. And certainly it's also much easier from many angles, but sometimes you can't do it. You're in one country and and there's no way you can get to the other person, so you can appoint a shliach. But mitzvah for yotem b'shlucho. That's what Rashi says. Because there's still greater reward for the person who does it himself. Just like by saying Kaddish and other things. Anyway, this is clearly one of the sources for the Rambam. The Kiddushin is really a mitzvah. It's not just an act of change of status, which you can do through shliach. So therefore you can do it through shliach, but it's also got the extra aspect of a mitzvah. And what's the comparison? Where do we learn it from? Where does the Gemara learn it from? That mitzvah bo yotem b'shluch. Gemara brings a source. What's the source for it?
Send her away.
Now, what's the source in the first piece of Gemara? Which you all learn? No. Truma you learn out shlichus. But where do you learn out that it's a bigger mitzvah for him to do it than to do it through a shliach? What's the proof of the Gemara?
Bull.
Pardon?
The word bull. The word personally.
But the Gemara not satisfied just to deduce it from the phrase. The Gemara brings an example. What example does it bring? I'm following through the pshat of the Rambam.
The hair of the animal hinge the hair of the animal.
It says Kihod Rav Safra Machrich Reisha. What did Rav Safra do?
Singe the head.
On Erev Shabbos, before Shabbos,
Singe the hair.
he would scorch the head to have meat for it for Shabbos, and also Rovo.
Salt.
He used to do salting of this special fish. What do they do it for? What are these great scholars? Safra was the biggest Talmid Chacham. Rovo, we know all the way through the Gemara, constantly concerned with teaching Torah. So what did he do before Shabbos?
Preparation.
He prepared. I'm sure he could have got someone to do it for him, but he insisted he himself is going to salt the fish and spend time on it. Shimut Adag. And then the Gemara brings this aspect to be deduced from all parts of the Mishnah. And so what's the proof from these sages? What do you prove from that? What has salting a fish got to do with getting married? What's one to do with the other?
Because he's been doing it himself, and he hadn't had.
First of all, which mitzvah was it? What was this mitzvah they were absorbing?
Oneg Shabbat.
Yeah.
And he was doing it
But it wasn't on
himself.
Shabbos. It was before Shabbos.
Preparation for Shabbat.
Yeah.
Personal involvement.
Huh?
Personal involvement.
They could easily found someone else. And also it's like this. First of all, the occupations they were involved with were not the most delicate types of activities. I mean, it didn't very much suit the Gedolei Hador. They were the greatest giants in teaching Torah of their generation, and they should go and spend time on Erev Shabbat on these activities. And there's another Gemara speaks about other activities of the sages on Erev Shabbat. But they did it to fulfill the mitzvah of, which mitzvah? You say?
Preparation for Shabbat.
Well, from where do we know that preparation for Shabbat is a mitzvah? From where do we learn it?
Shamor
Where's the
is a
mitzvah
mitzvah.
mentioned?
Manna.
Huh? Do any of you know where it's mentioned?
Shamor is a
Out
whole.
of the manna, Friday morning.
Oh, you're right. You've given a very good interpretation of the Makne. What does it say by the Mon? We learn out the mitzvah of having Sudot of Shabbat from the manna, from the Mon, from which there was a double portion. We say, it says, Echlu Hayom, you should eat it today. Therefore there's a mitzvah to have extra meals on Shabbat. That's why we take 2 loaves of bread on Shabbat. The extra mitzvah involved. And we learn it from Mon, which even before the giving of the Torah. And what does it say there by the Mon? Lechinu et asher yaviu. There's a mitzvah to prepare for the Shabbat. Otherwise, they had to take the Mon, which they collect in Erev Shabbat, and they cooked and prepared it. It should be ready for good food on Shabbat. So we see, it's a mitzvah of the Torah to prepare meals before Shabbat, for the Shabbat, mitzvah of the Torah even. That's one of the sources. But the Rambam, in fact the Rambam himself, following here the Rambam, the Rambam himself speaks about it. He speaks about the mitzvah of Shamor v'Zachor, the mitzvah of the Torah. So Shamor v'Zachor, what do we learn from there? From there we learn there's a mitzvah to prepare things for Shabbat. The word Shamor means to prepare things, like we have Shmura Matzah, to prepare it for its purpose. So Shamor. The Rambam has a more specific definition. Arba devarim ne'emru b'Shabbat, shnai min haTorah, shnai midivri sofrim. There are 4 special positive mitzvot mentioned in the Torah. 2 from the Torah and 2 from the words of Sofrim. That means they're more traditional. They're mufurashim and they're explained by the prophets. But in the Torah is achor v'shamor. But what does achor v'shamor actually mean? So the prophets explain it. They say it's a reference to 2 mitzvot of kavod v'oner. It says v'karata l'shabbat oner. The Shabbat is referred to by Yeshaya as being a day of great pleasure and a day of great honor. And then the Rambam describes this. In other words, the prophets are only explaining what it says in the 10 Commandments, where it says Zachor Shamor. Zachor Shamor means we have to make sure that we have great pleasure on Shabbat, very nice foods, and then also give great honor to Shabbat. And then the Rambam describes how do you give honor to Shabbat? By preparing for it beforehand. And he even brings this example, even if a person is the most important scholar amongst the people of Israel, and he doesn't go shopping and buying things. It doesn't bother with household activities and preparing meals, because wife is there to do it, or he can get others to do it for him. That we see the Chachamim HaRishonim, there were some who used to chop wood in order to cook the Shabbat, and some used to do the cooking of the meals, or salting the meat or the fish, and so on. They did all this. He said, and in fact, this is brought as a halacha. The Shulchan Aruch is this opinion of the Rambam. That's sure it's a mitzvah of the Torah to prepare for meals for Shabbat and other things. And it's emphasized by the Mechaber, or a person shouldn't say, surely it's not according to my honor to go shopping or to go and cook and so on. This is his honor, that thereby he honors the Shabbat. So it's very mitzvah of the Torah, as explained by the prophets. Now, there's quite a few aspects of this which you have to answer halachically speaking. There's a law that a Talmid Chacham, if there's a stray dog somewhere, and it's not according to his honor that he should go and take the stray dog and keep him until he finds the owner, then he's not obligated to do it. That's why it says, there's a great mitzvah of returning lost articles, lost animals to their owner. This mitzvah is emphasized a few times in the Chumash. But we learn out that if you are the Gadol Hador, like today, let's say you're the Gerer Rebbe, or you're Chaim Kanievsky, well, you don't go around returning stray dogs and cats to their owner. It's not. People will be very upset if they see him doing it, and they'll say, no, don't you do it, and don't let you do it. Yeah? And the law of the Torah is he doesn't have to do it. So why here does he have to do it? Why he's got to chop wood, he's got to go shopping, he's got to go cooking, yeah? Maybe he's got a big family, a lot of guests, so he's got to spend a good few hours on Friday, which he's got to spend teaching and learning more. You'll see around Chaim Kanievsky, salting the fish and salting the meat. Is that mechubad? So they ask the question, why should he do it? What's the answer? Should he do it or not? Yeah. He should, yeah. Zeo kavod Shabbat. It's different. Okay, between man and man, you see already the Torah says, if you like to help other people in human society, okay, you don't have to go around like an ordinary person running to shops, or like a cook. and so on. But when it comes to kavod for the Shabbat, then you give up those concepts. Say kavod shel Shabbat. You do something for the Shabbat. You see, the sages did it. Chofetz Chaim also, he was particular about doing such things. He tried to keep all these laws. There's another question. And let me ask you a question. You're learning Torah, yeah? And somebody comes in and says, comes to the yeshiva and he says, listen, we need help outside with moving some furniture. Can you please come and help us? You know what to do. Do you have to help with chesed? Do a chesed. You've got to do chasadim. And they'll come to the yeshiva and they'll say, listen, come help me outside. I've got to move my furniture. And I can't find a furniture remover. So will you please help me remove furniture? You'll tell all this and best, will you all get up and help me? It doesn't say in the Torah, you've always got to help others. Don't we say every morning, Gemilut Chasadim is one of the greatest mitzvahs with which you get rewarded this world, and the capital means from the world to come. So come and help me. What to do? Do you have to go out? You're in the middle of learning Torah. It says the Psalm of Torah connected Kulam, right? What does that mean?
If somebody else do it,
Yeah.
then you can do it, right? If there isn't somebody else do it, then you can do it. But if there is somebody else,
You're right, quite correct. The Gemara asked the question. It says, what do you mean? You've got the Gemilut Chasadim. What is a clash with Gemilut Chasadim learning Torah? Yeah? What should you do? Gemara says it. If the Gemilut Chesed that other people can do who are not learning, let them do it. That's why I said Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. But if there's nobody else to do it, let's say that somebody outside is falling down, he's hurt himself and so on. You say, well, I'm in the middle of learning. Oh, no, there's nobody else to help him at this moment. Then you've got to go out and help him. So we've got to, let's say, in Beis HaMedrash, people come in and say, look, there's an emergency outside, please come and help me. So then, you'll say, first go to the mashgiach, say, are there any bachrim who are not learning? They're just, perhaps, maybe they're just in bed, just having a break, having a smoke or something. Then let them do it. They're not learning, but we're learning. But if let's say they can't get anyone else to do it, you've got to go out and help. A chesed that can only be done by yourself, there's nobody else around to do it, even in the middle of learning, or even in certain instances, in the middle of teaching, you've got to go out and help, especially if there's any danger to life or limb. And certainly you've got to go out to help. So chesed she'efshar li'asot, it's in Shulchan Aruch said, chesed she'efshar la'asot al dei achirim, learning comes first. But chesed she'efshar la'asot al dei achirim, then you have to go out and help. It's a very important principle. So therefore they also ask the question here, what do you mean? These sages, we find it says here in the beginning of the Gemara, they surely had others who could come and do this chasadim, to go and prepare for Shabbos meals. So why should they interrupt it? What's the din?
We learned, yes, we
Prepare
should.
for Shabbos?
Yeah, we should. Do yourself. Do
They've
it
got to
yourself.
interrupt their learning. Don't say enough, I've got to say they're learning.
It's
Let's say this is a very practical question today. Avrechim. Yeah, because these days they have koilelim. Yeah? They have koilelim. Here also, we have here a koilel for Erev Shabbos. Yeah? And let's say the wife says, listen, I need some help in the house. What should they do? You've got two questions. Should they help their wives or not?
they should.
Yeah? They should. Let's say there's a short Erev Shabbos and the wife is too difficult for her, she can't get on. The Avrech is mechuyev to say to the head of koilel, the din is, it's kavod Shabbat. There's no, I can't have kavod, my house won't be tidy. Also, you know, you've got to tidy your rooms for Shabbos, you know that. I want to say this, very important. For some people, sometimes in yeshivas as well, they neglect getting their room tidied up for months. Every Erev Shabbos, you've got to make it spick and span. Well, that's the din. It's kavod Shabbat. And even your great Talmud Chacham and so on, even your koilel or whatever, you got to tell, that comes first, it's a psak on the Shulchan Aruch, and it's learned in this Gemara. So therefore, we see from these situations, look at the Bir Halacha speaks about it here. Mishnah Berurah Bir Halacha speak about such instances that take place. How you've got to help at home before Shabbos. It's a great zechut. It's Kavod Shabbat. And even your Talmud Chacham, even you of the head Talmud Chacham of the generation, you have to help along. It's a big mitzvah. And although there are, you've got to always weigh up, in Torah you have to weigh up one thing against another thing. Well, this takes precedence because the great mitzvah of Zachor v'Shamor, or the great mitzvah Echinu et Asher Taviu. And the Psak Halach and the Shulchan is like the Rambam in this instance. And our Gemara learns out Kiddushin from Shabbos. So it's very interesting. You could say Kiddushin is more mefurash because after all it says what's the Rambam say? Mekadesh Amu Yisrael Chup Kiddushin. So I think you can say as follows. And the Rambam, he goes to Shitosa. Because the Rambam is very consistent. By the way, the Rambam was such a genius that it's unbelievable. Because he takes into consideration the Bavli and the Yerushalmi and all different opinions of the Gaonim. At the same time, knew all the sciences of his age on a very high level. Yeah, and from quote I only found out about it a few weeks ago that the Ram was in Cairo looking after the Sultan's health. Because in his time, there were also two groups amongst the Muslims. The intellectuals amongst the Muslims, they respected the Jewish religion, the Jewish scholars enormously, enormous respect for them. And they recognized that the Quran really teaches that you've got to be moral. And they were the ones who originated a university. The first university in the world was in Cairo. And they invited the Rambam to teach them astronomy, because the Rambam was one of the greatest astronomers of his time. This is also known as Kiddush. And there was a very good relationship, but the Rambam had to escape and run away from the wild Muslims who existed in other parts of the world, in North Africa and so on. Only at that time, the higher Muslims were in the majority, and they believed in the Noahide Code as part of the Quranic tradition. It's only since the time Mufti of Jerusalem became a partner with Hitler in spreading anti-Semitism, and that's gone over now into the Muslim consciousness, and that's where we're faced with all these threats for life on this planet. So let's hope that Rambam will prevail. And the greatest, also today, the heads of Cairo University today, they are very much against the extreme fundamentalists, as well as the head of Islam University and also of Islam in general in Italy, same moderate, unfortunately, minority voice. So this is just as an aside, but the Rambam's greatness in halacha is the greatest basis of halacha, although there are differing opinions, as we will perhaps see in due course. So I want to go a bit more deeper into the background to this. We see here, we learn a kedusha of Am Yisrael, because how did the bracha end? Mekadesh Am Yisrael chup v'kiddushin. The Rambam says that Matan Torah introduced the concept of kedusha. So why do we go to Shabbos? Because Shabbos is mentioned as kedusha before Kedushas Yisrael. The first time kedusha is mentioned is where? Tell me. Where did it first mention?
Bereshis.
Where?
By Kadeshotu.
By Shabbat. Yeah. Hashem introduced holiness into the Shabbat. That's the first mention of holiness. And what does Rashi say on Vaykadesh and Vayvorech Elokim et Yom HaShiv Vaykadesh Oto? What's the Rashi say? Vayvorech and Vaykadesh. And what Rashi says? Anybody learned the Rashi on that? How does Hashem bless the seventh day? Rashi says through the Mon. And how did it sanctify it? Through the Mon. But like this, there's a hint in the first chapter. By the way, in the chapter divisions, of the Bible, is it the first chapter? Shabbat?
I think so.
Second.
You look in the Bible. Which chapter is it?
Second.
Second chapter. Listen, so I just want to understand you. It's such a... And why do I use the Jerusalem Bible? I use it regularly for all references. Because the Jerusalem Bible is better in one way than all the printed Chumash that exist. Yeah. Much better in one way. If you look in the Jerusalem Bible, you'll find there are two columns different for chapter divisions. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
Just have a look next time. The Masoretic text, that means the Masorah, our tradition of the Bible, is that we've not only got a tradition which tells us clearly how to divide the sentences, which are not in the text of Sifrei Torah, and the early Sifrei Nevi'im do not contain punctuation marks, nor even vowel signs. You have to learn them by heart. Kriyat Torah, from Sefer Torah. You've got to know where to divide the sentences, and we know all the vowels and all the different commas and so on, which exist also in the Jewish tradition, the way in which the Torah is read. So there's a chapter division of the Masorah, but the chapter division in nearly all the printed Hebrew Bibles until today, even those with commentaries, who originated that chapter division? I'm not talking about the Parshiot, which is
The monks.
But
the monks.
yeah, it was the monks. Actually, they were in Britain, and I think in the 10th century, they made a chapter division according to Christian concepts. And one of the most significant differences is the 6th day and the 7th day. The first chapter ends with Yom HaShishi, the 6th day. The second chapter begins by Chul HaShamayim V'Ol Tzava'am. That's the second chapter, is the Shabbat. And it follows the false concept of the Christians, which is give unto God that which belongs to God, and give unto Caesar that which belongs to Caesar. You know, on the holy day you've got to be holy, and the other days you can be a Roman. I think only material things. Yeah, so the divide between the 6 days and the 7th day. And with us, we do the opposite. When you make Kiddush, how do you have to begin? How do you begin the Kiddush on Friday night? Which word? Not Vaychulu.
Well, Yom HaShishi.
Yom HaShishi. Yom HaShishi Vaychulu. One of the reasons is because if you take Yom HaShishi, the last letter, and then you take the next three Vaychulu, then you have the Shem Havaya. The Shem Havaya unites the 6 days with the 7th day. And also because we must always be Mosif Mechol al HaKodesh. Always got to add. Shabbos comes in always before sunset. We've got to have a time before sunset, before the beginning of night, because the concept of Shabbat is that it should influence the whole week. Shabbat is there to influence our lives in the week, and not to make a separation. When we say Hashem made a difference in the Shabbat and weekday, it was because the Shabbat's got to activate and influence the weekday activities. So therefore that's the importance of Shabbat. So therefore, when it says in the Shabbat, Hashem blessed the Shabbat day and He sanctified it, it was illustrated in a concrete manner with the Mon. Because really, the Mon teaches us it's the reason that's given for the name Mon in the Chumash. What's the reason? Ki lo yadu mahu, they didn't know what it was. What it says in the Chumash. But the reason of the name Mon with the Nun, because Mon comes from the roots, a portion. Everybody should know, we're all given a portion of livelihood by Hashem. And the recognition, we've got to recognize it comes from Hashem. Then we say the Shabbat is the source of blessing. We shouldn't think that by desisting from work on Shabbat, when Hashem desisted from work, as it were, So we've also got to desist from work and to recognize that He's the one who gives us our physical life, and He gives us the material means to keep on our physical life. That was the lesson which was taught to Am Yisrael when they went in the desert, but to teach us that that's the lesson for all our lives. In other words, that if you will really fulfill the Shabbat and also gain faith that all comes from Hashem and demonstrate it by not going to search for your livelihood in the week, on the Shabbat, but only in the week, you'll get blessing. And Shad says something very interesting. First I'll tell you an experience from my shul in Manchester. I had members of my shul in Manchester and members of other congregations in Manchester, where when I came there's an early morning Shabbos minyan. And that early morning minyan was composed of a few old Yidden, you know, who liked to have breakfast early. They came to the early minyan, Hashkama. Then after breakfast they came to hear the drosha of the rabbi and the chazan in his choir. But who attended it, this minyan? There were a few hundred people. Manchester was a market town, who parked their cars around the corner. They came to the early minyan to say Kaddish, and then they went off to the markets to do their business. So there was when I came to the shul, there was someone who said, you've got to nullify that minyan. Because after all, you're supporting people who desecrate the Shabbos. You know, you'll see they've got their cars parked around the corner. So I discussed at the time, you know, I had the great zechus. In my time, the Av Bestin was Manchester, was Minchas Yitzchok, after it came the Av Bestin here in Yerushalayim, and he was a great man. I discussed it with him and I said, listen, perhaps I should use it as an opportunity to get hold of them, be able to speak to them. Because I like to go to that minyan also, because it's easier for me. So also I went there to Dam Shachris, we had a minyan, good minyan, and then every week I gave them a talk about the importance of keeping Shabbos. And I suggested to some of them, you know, perhaps you should try a different market, different type of market, where Shabbos is not the main day. Or you should try a different profession. If I tell you it worked, because every Shabbos I spoke and I got to know these people, and many of them I suggested they should go a different profession. And they did much better. And from them came many Shomer Shabbos, they started observing the Shabbos, and their children sent to yeshivas, and it helped. But I'll tell you more than that. I come here to Eretz Yisrael. What do we see? That El Al, at the time, they were running on Shabbos also, and they had constant shavitot, they had constant strikes. And they made a very big deficit because of all these strikes. So here in Israel also, same situation. The governments, they said, well, we don't bother about Shabbos, you know, like today there's also problems. So at the time, when Begin, who was, we tried to be Shomer Shabbos Begin, and he wore tefillin every day and believed in Hashem. So at the time, he also worked together with some very prominent personalities from the religious groups, and they said, let's try and change the situation. So El Al became Shomer Shabbos, and had connections also then with it. It was very good. Chaver Knesset Shapiro was very influential here, very popular. So they kept Shabbos and they made a profit. In fact, if you've got one of our magazines, at that time, we got an advert from El Al Vayishbetu Am Yom HaShvi'i with El Al planes on. And from that time onwards, actually, they've been in a better situation. But they don't desecrate the Shabbos. And it's very important today because all these businesses that are going up here, very important to keep the status quo, even with the success of the business. So this is why the Mon is an important lesson even for people of the Torah. Hashem, Shabbos is the Makor HaBrocha, is the source of blessing for Am Yisrael. It always has been, it will be also in our time. So, I think this we can explain the Gemara on this basis. The Sefer Yetzirah says, a good approach to life. It says there are 3 types of basic dimensions of human existence, called in the Sefer Yetzirah is the book of creation. You know what it is? The earliest grammatical work, and also the earliest so-called Kabbalistic work, which exists. And the basis of the Sefer Yetzirah is attributed to whom? To whom? To Avraham Avinu. And there's indications of it also. You start studying ancient civilization, and also the Brahmins and so on, that the Brahmin civilization, Brahmin might even go back to the name Avraham. If you study the original source of Far Eastern religion, philosophy, and Sanskrit, then you find they were influenced by Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu was the pioneer of spreading monotheism in the world. And the ideas of Sefer Yetzirah go back a lot also to the origin of language, of the Hebrew language, which is discussed in the grammatical form in the Sefer Yetzirah, which you also find today. One of the classics of modern linguistics is the structure and origin of language by Diamond, and which language to go back to? Original Hebrew, the 2-letter roots of the Hebrew language. So it's a very deep concept. So we find that this, to understand the Kedusha of Am Yisrael, so the Sefer Yetzirah says, there's 3 dimensions: Olam, Shana, and Nefesh. Olam is the world of space, Shana is the world of time, and Nefesh is the world of human spirit, human beings. So we find like this: Kedusha in time is the Shabbat, called Kadesh Oto. Kedusha in space is the Beit HaMikdash, and Kedusha in person is Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael is a high level Kedusha, Kadosh. And what does Kedusha mean? It's the time, the place, and the person is elevated, krushim to you, and separated to some extent from being dependent on materialism. But it's really the ultimate perfection of materialism. So that's all this is. Perfection of materialism comes when all material beauties and pleasures, they're all channeled and they're purified and they give greater energy to producing a more beautiful world and to producing a more beautiful time. So this is what happens. We have the Shabbat. The Shabbat, in fact, in the Jewish concept, space is dependent on time. The Western concept is no, time we describe in terms of space. Past, present, future, space, But the Torah is the other way around. The Torah, the 6 days of creation, really refer to the 6 grades of creation, not necessarily the times. It's another. Space is also described in terms of time. So the first Kedusha is Kedusha of time. It's the Shabbat. The second Kedusha is the Beit HaMikdash. And the third Kedusha is the person, that's Am Yisrael. So therefore the Rambam says, why does the bracha of Kiddushin end? Mekadesh Amo Yisrael al Yedei Chuppah v'Kiddushin. You look more carefully at the Rambam, he explains it. He says, because how do you establish the continuity of the nation, which comes through the fulfillment of plural rule? How do you continue the nation? The nation of Israel has to preserve the higher levels of human existence introduced by Adam and Chava through the Mitzva of Kiddushin. What's Kiddushin mean? You don't go ahead and just build your future family on the basis of just sexual desires. No, you've got to prepare for it. You've got to learn to overcome, to channel your sexual desires. You channel them by bringing it to a sublime level of holiness. That the truth is, the most holy part of it is actually the consummation of marriage. When it becomes holy without being integrated. As the Rabbi Akiva said, all songs are holy, Shir HaShirim is the holy of the holies. Because the holy of the holies exists in the physical fulfilled consummation of marriage. That's why also the special mitzvah to fulfill this mitzvah on Shabbat, because Shabbat is the time also of sanctifying food, sanctify all the physical aspects of life to reach the highest level. That's the Shir HaShirim. That's the highest level, also the highest level of pleasure, the highest level of spiritual fulfillment comes when it channels and gets its energy in the physical aspects of the human being. So that's why the mitzvah of Kiddushin, you learn it out from the mitzvah of Shabbat. Shabbat is the holiness of time. We live in time, and we've got to use it for the way in which the divine image which exists, Tzelem Elokim, which is in our souls, can reach its highest fulfillment. So, now this we can say also explains to us why the blessing one says on Kiddushin, the Rambam says it's a Birchat HaMitzvot, it's a blessing to fulfill the mitzvah of Kiddushin. The Rambam in Hilchos Ishus, it describes that this is a blessing like you say on other mitzvot. In Perek Gimel, Halacha kol hamekadesh isha bein al de'atzmo bein al de'shliach tzarich levarech kodem hakiddushin u'shlicho. So you really have to make the bracha beforehand, either he himself or his agent. Before you fulfill a mitzvah, there's a principle, the Birchat HaMitzvot you say before you fulfill the mitzvah. Therefore, if you, in Kiddush, what did Kiddushin didn't make a blessing, you should make it afterwards, the bracha levatzalah. Ma shenaseh kvar na'asa. So therefore the mitzvah is to go and say the Birchat Erosin. Today, the Chatan himself doesn't say it, although called Ram the Chatan can say it, because it's his mitzvah. Or the Shliach, the Masada Kiddushin can say it, in front of the two witnesses. So it's clear the Ram has one shitta here, it's a proper mitzvah that he describes it, but how do we say it? It's an unusual type of blessing. For nearly all the blessings we say go on action. You've all witnessed the chuppah, have you taken notice of what the bracha is at the beginning? Does anyone know it by heart?
Which bracha?
The first bracha said at the chuppah. Who says it? Look, there was a time when the Eirus in Kiddushin were a year before the Nisuin, before the chuppah. Today we do them on the same night, yeah? You've been to Chassidus.
Borei Priya Geffen is the first one.
Yeah, okay. It's set on wine, yeah. But then what happens next?
Al Yedei Kiddushin Megadesh Asher
What
Asar
does the
Lanu
Masada Kiddushin say?
Asher Asar Lanu et ha'arayot ve'ilnat.
He says, even the Rambam has this kisser. Asher Kitshanu b'mitzvotav. He has sanctified us through his commandments.
Al Yedei Kiddushin.
He has to give Vivdilanu min ha'arayot. And he separated us from forbidden marriages. V'amal v'asa lana et harusot. And he said we should not have as yet physical relationships with those who are just betrothed to us. We're called Pechat Erosin. But he said once we make a chuppah, and once we have cheder yichud, that's called nisuin, that's the second part. After we've written, signed the ketubah, then hitim al Kiddushin. Then we have hitilano. That means then we have permission to have physical unification. Then Uvat Hashem Mekadosh Yisrael. Kaddish Am Yisrael the Kiddushin. So the Rambam, it's a bit different to regular bracha. Well, what's a regular bracha? What's a regular bracha on a mitzvah? What is it?
Asher Kiddushin b'mitzvot v'tzivanu
Al what?
and then comes the bracha.
Al what?
It depends on the mitzvah. And
Al the
comes
action.
Mitzvah.
Al netilat.
On an action.
Yeah.
But yet not on an action. The blessing is not on an action. We say, not directly, in any case, we say, according to the Nusach we have today, She'osa lanu et harusot. He has made it forbidden for us, it's called Birchat Erusin. And what's the bracha? You, Hashem, tell us, when we only do an Erusin, we're still not allowed to go and have a marital union. V'hitelanu, but you make it permissible for us to have a marital union when we have done chuppah, when we've done nisuin. So it's a blessing on a permission, but not a blessing on an action. We don't say, the bracha is not that you have commanded us lifrot v'nirvot. It's a separate. The broad blessing is not on having we give the commandment to go and be fruitful and multiply, to do our action in that direction. It's on the Kiddushin, which tell us, make Kiddushin first. And really the Kiddushin teach us to restrain ourselves and to wait until we've settled everything else. Don't just, you've got to settle, you've got to look after your wife, you and your bride both have to prepare one another for the nisuin. Today, or we do it together for different various reasons, one straight after the other. But originally, one was separate from the other. The Birchat Erusin are separate from the Birchat Nisuin. So it's a more unusual law. Still, but the way they explain it, it's still almost the same as the regular bracha. Because it's a general bracha on the whole structure which has been established and mentioned already in the Chumash. There's different Chumash also in Al-Rusa and the Suah. So it is a sanctification of the sexual act. So that's what we thank Hashem for the manner in which He has given us a way to even look to control our sexuality and look forward to it. And this is really is an important psychological principle. That the Torah's attitude to marriage is all surrounded, even today, when we do the two together, but we know we have to go through special preparation. I mean, today it's a bit of a problem in a way. It can even cause confusion. In most newspapers, when it describes an engagement, they call it an arusot. The only ones who don't ever put an arusot are the Lubavitchers. What do the Lubavitchers put? You've seen it? Meshudachot. They use the word Meshudachot, Shidduch. In the language of the Gemara, you have Shidduch, Erusin, and Nisuin. Because there were different levels. Shidduchim was when two sides discussed, they want to get married. It's just a shidduch. Shidduch comes from what's the root? To feel more calmed down. When a guy and a girl, they find the right person, so that when you reach a level of tranquility, shidduch is lashon shaket. So there's a bit more rested. So you look forward. Then they have to see how they're going to manage, how they're going to prepare. So in earlier times, the shidduch took place, and shortly afterwards they had the erusin in order to clinch it. Erusin was, right, we're going to get married, but still the kala stayed in her home and the chazan in his home. Now to work out, they gave themselves a year to prepare, to find the right financial means. Because that means often meant a big change in their lifestyle. But beforehand, didn't bother to earn such a lot of money. Now they've got to find out, can they really manage to get an apartment? Especially today, you need time for that. So therefore they had Erusin, and then generally speaking, as you find in the Gemaras, it took a year till he could really get married. But there was the period of suspense, and they controlled the instincts, and they worked hard at it. And I tell you, the more that they controlled the instincts, the happier they were when they actually consummated the marriage. A great day. And today we have that as well in part, because you always leave a good few months between the time of the Tanaim, you call them today, the original engagement was not yet binding entirely, and then you prepare for the actual day of the Chasna. So this is an important principle. But this is one approach, not the other, or nearly all, very many poskim follow this principle all the way through. But the Rosh, which if you're interested, can give another share on it, because to go into it more deeply. There's a Rosh in Ketuvot who says you can't explain this to be a Birchat HaMitzvot. Kiddushin is not a mitzvah. Kiddushin is just a means of permitting us to have marital connections, to build it up. But first of all, we got any questions?
Yeah.
We've said so far. Yeah.
Well, the reality is, I think most Jews live with each other before they get married. So my question is, the ketubah, is it valid? Because they live with each other first. So is their marriage valid?
Still valid, yes.
Why?
Well, because
They married forbidden. The brocha is I'm marrying someone that's not forbidden to me.
what?
The brocha of
If
Kiddushin.
they've lived with one another, so there's a different question. The question is, do they get a Ketuvah of 200 or 100? It might be a difference. It's not a Ketuvah anymore. The difference between the Ketuvah given to a virgin and some not given to a virgin, called the Ikar Halacha. Could be differences in the type of ketubah, but still the ketubah is valid, because ketubah is primarily an agreement that the husband is going to look after his wife in the right manner. That he gives her security in case of divorce, in case of death. So that still applies. Any other questions? Yes.
I want to ask something that...
If you follow this share, then I will give another share to follow it up with a full interpretation.
To me, numerically at least, I see a kind of difference with the rest of the world. In the Pirkei Avot, it says that 18 is the age of marriage and 20 is the age of pursuing livelihood. But we know that in our world, like in America and Europe, the person first works and makes a kind of fortune and then gets married. Why is this difference in Judaism, that first you might be married and then you go for a job?
Okay, I'll have to leave the answer to the next share. Any other questions? Good, you'd like to hear your questions, then I'll give a further share.
You mentioned about some of your congregants changing businesses or closing jobs in Manchester. But couldn't you have a situation where one of your congregants had a guy for a partner? Let's say they were both veterinarians, and the Jew made the arrangement with his partner, who was Gentile, that the business would be open on Shabbos. However, the Gentile would get all the profits on Shabbos. So then he could go to shul. In other words, were there any situations like that?
Of course, there are situations.
The mitzvah of Kiddushin then is very